This is Porn Talk. Here is your host, Eric Zuzack.
Welcome back to Porn Talk. This is Powerful Eric. This show is not just about breaking addictions. It's about breaking belief systems. We are born into the matrix, and we have someone that's here to help pull us out of the matrix. Her name is Lorna Gale. She is a somatic sexologist. I'll have her again just say really briefly what that is. Welcome back, Lorna.
Thank you so much, Eric.
That's tell us again, what is a somatic sexologist?
A somatic sexologist is someone who supports people in looking at the study and the experience of sex through the body. So how do you be your own best student, learn in this laboratory of the body and experience it through the body.
So our sexual nature has a lot to teach us, right? And and what I teach is that's can be one of the gateways to being the best version of yourself, right?
Absolutely.
So in the last episode, we talked about some of the challenges with masturbation and porn, either the hypersexual version of it or the complete other side of it, the sexual anorexic side of things. So what can people do? Let's speak to both of them. Let's start on the hypersexual side, as far as like engaging with pornography to the point where you want to stop it, you can't. What would you say to somebody that is struggling with something like that?
A few different things. That it really is an opportunity to feel. And I'm not just talking about that sensation when stroking and masturbating and watching. I'm talking about actually feeling at an even deeper level. So as women primarily in our culture, we've been taught you're emotional, so be emotional, but don't be sexual or you're a slut. Men are taught you're sexual, you're a stud, that type of thing, but don't be emotional.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this piece about everyone on some level is being shut down to a natural part of who we are. And I say the gift of human is to being human is to feel. And so when there's parts of us that we are shutting down, and again, that's a way that we are denying our essence, and it's like the treasure chest. Anything that is really beautiful and powerful and of great value, it's usually under lock and key. It's, put the danger sign on. Oh, don't go here, detour. And so to be able to look at how our sexuality has been shamed, demonized.
Yes, it has.
And so was a bit. Okay. So it becomes this aspect and this opportunity to start to feel. So when I'm working with men, it's primarily who I work with around the porn, some women as well. Primarily it's this piece about, instead of being this, turn it off, don't go near it. And, this struggle is kind of, no, let's use it. So I remember one client that I had, he would book in and we would work, 2 or 3 hours. I can do this in person as well as online. But he would book in 2 or 3 hours of a session. We would do various mindset pieces as well. And then he would set up his computer and he would masturbate. And then I would coach him on various things in terms of, okay, let yourself feel the sensation. Okay, now breathe. You should bring your body and breathe and feel what's happening in your body. So instead of staying up in the head, while we start to connect back into the body. So using the porn and that propensity to it, that compulsiveness to use it, is to use that to come back home and feel and bridge it back and forth. So this back and forth. And there's various meditations that I offer and that we work on to be able to bridge that, to come back home to themselves. And so it's that opportunity as well. It also is an opportunity when people get to feel into things, whether it's the physical sensation or it's the emotions that start to come, then it's just, okay, let yourself feel those things. feel into that as fully as you can, that emotion, instead of shutting things down, is let yourself feel that shame when you were humiliated or when you were punished for connecting to your sexuality. And those are a couple of the different ways to use it. And there was another one that came, and it's not there right now, so I'm just going to wait and see if it comes back up again.
Sure. So, oops. So one of the challenges with guys like you were talking about, it is that shame from either the masturbation and or the pornography. Oh, and you know what? I meant to ask you in the last episode. You said the word masturbation. What's its association with shame? What's
That's it, the root word of masturbation comes from the word shame. It's sort of defined as shame.
wow?
Mhm,
Well, that pretty much says it all.
mhm.
I mean, if the because words are powerful.
Yeah.
Um, so
Mhm.
I guess maybe self pleasure might be a better.
That's that's one way for sure. And the way that I do it is I call it PEP, personal erotic practice. And there's multiple things using breath, sound, and movement. That's a part of how I coach people to be able to really come back in. So personal erotic practice, it's not even just about genitals. It's about, and you mentioned it earlier, Eric, about it's that life force. It's all of who we are. I think of various people that they take them through this with porn or without, that it's really, they find that their creativity, their writing, their art, their relationships, their communication, their their ability to step into their leadership at work, it all comes because that's we come from sex. Everything of our life flows from it. And so it's going to show up in different times in different ways for everybody in their own way. So to be able to, how do we um, move beyond this sense of these genitals as something that's just to build orgasm? And in fact, one of the things that I do as well, there's a couple of different practices. One of them is, because we have this idea that orgasm is the destination, the ultimate, and even how many orgasms can I have in what period of time?
Mhm.
I say, in what I coach in the PEP, is that when you feel an orgasm start to come on, is actually breathe and take your touch elsewhere and breathe and spread the energy.
Mm.
And so, and then, and I take, I okay, breathe. And if I say, if 10 is ejaculation, 9 is the point of no return, let me know when you get to an 8. And so we build, 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 and we get to, oh, it's an 8. Okay, great. Let's relax. And so that upregulation, which is what the common trajectory is, right? Of what we're familiar with for men is build, 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 right?
Mhm.
And that, going back to as a young bride, that's what I thought. That's all I was aware of. I thought that's what it was. So when I got to this point,
Mm.
I thought I'd lost it. We weren't aware. And again, that's when I talk about the sex education. There's not the sex education. It's out now, and people are starting to become more aware of it through somatic sexologists. But a trajectory for women can be, it's a feminine, it's the upregulation and downregulation, upregulation and downregulation. And when it build, that excitation, there's that tension, and then the relax is actually the body relaxes. And the more you relax, the more you feel. And then build. And it doesn't go to the same place because you're relaxed, you're now able to feel even more and go down. And so riding those waves. So that's what I do is I take people on that wave, those waves, helping them to ride that erotic energy and build. And I say, when you feel an orgasm come on, that's where spread the energy, use your breath, take your touch elsewhere in their body instead of just, touch on the parts of your body. Touch. Some men, some women love having their nipples touched, and some don't. Don't go there. What's it like on your ankles? What's on your thighs? What's on your, just touch. What's it like to touch other parts of your body? Let your whole body be this erotic sexual organ, if you will. And the more you breathe, the more you feel. And so using your breath. So those are some of the ways that I coach people and take them through that so they can do that. Another way is and it's a Taoist practice, is uh, build that erotic energy. And when it feels it's just getting really heightened, then I take them through a breathing, lots of intense breathing, circular breathing, and then tensing the muscles, and then just release. And letting that erotic energy do what it will. Sometimes there's enlightenment that happens. Sometimes there's full body orgasm. Sometimes there's tremoring as traumas are released. Sometimes there's aha. Sometimes there's clarity and inspiration. Sometimes there's just deep peace.
Breathing can be so powerful. I do breath work, and I love that you're talking about that and feeling it through your whole body, because using pornography and having an orgasm with a person is so different, because when I'm just using pornography, it's just my genitals. But if I have sex with my wife, it's like this whole body experience. It's a completely different thing. And I'll never forget when I stopped, not just when I stopped using pornography and masturbation for a while, I had an orgasm with my wife. I was like, wow.
Aw.
Oh, this is how sex is supposed to be.
Oh, that's great. That's
So,
great.
yeah, that having that full body experience, and like you said, like, breathing into it and feeling your whole body. That's awesome. But what about the guy though that, like you were talking about earlier, that has so much shame built about let's just say masturbation?
Mhm,
Um, what would you say to that guy that he's just, he just says he's buried in so much shame
mhm,
about not just pornography, but even the masturbation side? What would you say to that guy?
mhm. At that point, it seems one of the crucial pieces to address and to use as a portal is actually starting to connect genitals and heart.
Hmm.
Those parts often get disconnected. There's this head and this head that are connected, right? But to now start to connect the heart and the genitals. And sometimes that's simply placing your hand on your heart and cupping your genitals, your scrotum, your cock, and just being there and just breathing. And it's not about an agenda. It's not about, oh, we have to get some expectations. Just no, just being present to that. And sometimes that it's simply that can start to now loosen, if you will, some of the, like a rusty bolt. It can be one of those things that starts to loosen it up to say, I'm okay. I'm okay. And again, when you talk about breath, when you think about it, so number one, we come from sex. And what do we do when that baby is born? We listen and wait for that first breath. And when it comes to the end of life or end of the human experience, if you will, we talk about they took their last breath.
Mm-hmm.
So breath is life. And so when we tap into the breath, and again, when we think about so often when we are in this shame place, we tense up, we hold our breath. And so even that piece of just holding genitals and heart and just breathing and just noticing, where does the breath go? Where does the body move? Where does it not move? And not even a sense of trying to fix, but can we notice what is and let that noticing, that awareness itself be a key piece of that lubricant of awakening to our wholeness that the shame is just covering up. I talk about the shroud of shame, that shame is not our true essence. The true essence is our oneness, both with all of humanity, all of oneness within ourselves and with our divine state. That's our natural essence. That's our natural state of being. And so to be able to have this story, this human experience, okay, let's create these things where suddenly that which you come from is wrong and bad, and you shouldn't feel it, you shouldn't do it, you shouldn't enjoy it. And heaven forbid that you enjoy it a whole lot and often. right? And so to be able to, this shroud of shame comes over, and the shroud of should, and the shroud of shouldn't. And it becomes a very heavy mantle to wear. And so, and it seems like every time we feel this inclination to connect to that true essence of who we are through a sexual experience or a sexual fantasy or watching the porn, it's like it puts another layer on. And I'm saying we're taking them off, and breath can help us to do that.
Mm. I love your analogy, or what you call the shroud of shame, because uh, I I know I help my clients to take off that shroud of shame, and become a superhero. I am powerful, Eric. And I have my clients, when they get to a certain point in the process, come up with their own power name, their own superhero name, to change the way they look at themselves in the mirror and
Beautiful.
drop the shroud. And
Beautiful.
instead, thank you for this. Take the shroud off, but or turn the shroud into a cape. Thank
Ah,
you for that.
I love it. I love it.
Thank you for that. Turn the shroud into a superhero cape.
I love that. That's so great. That's really,
Oh, well, Lorna, tell me about maybe you have some client success stories around this, or maybe, um, what's one of the biggest transformations you've seen, or what's a funny story around any of this, or, your all your work with all your different clients, does one stick out?
mm. The one that flashes into mind right away is, and it's not specific to sexuality, and yet it feels important to share that. It's a woman from overseas, and it's not a secret. She posts about our work together all over, and her work is about working with women who have been, and men as well, who have been in a similar situation. She was one who had childhood sexual abuse at the hand of her stepfather for 14 years, from age 4 till 18.
Oof.
And so she and I worked together, and she was able to go from one of her emails that she sent to me. She said, "Lorna, I have to share this with you." And I think that this, and I'm getting tingles as I'm saying this, because I think that this is really, it feels like this is really a key piece for a lot of people. Whether it's, and porn can you the use of porn, or in sometimes what can be seen as the overuse of porn, while it can be judged, it can also be that place that provides a survival mechanism, if you will, for our life's experiences up to that point, or that have brought us to that place. But the piece that she was very very disconnected, even though in her youth she had been what would be called promiscuous or trying various things, but still very disconnected and feeling just so much shame about what she had gone through. But what she wrote to me was, "Lorna," she said, "I was out on the beach walking with my husband, and I felt sensations in my feet on the sand that I have never felt before." Because as she was able to address those parts of her that had been shut down through shame, through trauma, through various pieces, that she was able now to feel the sensation of a greater aspect of life. And we talk about things in polarities. We talk about there's pain and there's pleasure. And as we can allow ourselves to feel what we might call pain or what we call pleasure, it actually starts to expand our ability to experience and feel it all. And as that happens, we actually start to drop the labels even of pain and pleasure, and just realizing, wow, what I get to experience and to feel through this body.
Mm.
And I talk about a pleasure cap that, um, and again, I look at orgasms and I approach them in a different way than a lot of people do. Instead of saying, okay, how many orgasms can you have in a short period of time? How many kinds? Laughgasm, crygasm, throatgasm. All of these different kinds of anal orgasm. What kind of orgasms can you have? Is kind of what if the orgasm was actually showing you your pleasure cap? So that's where taking them on this journey of, okay, let's take it up higher, take it up higher. It's expanding their ability to feel pleasure. And this often for a lot of men, it will take away that premature ejaculation because that's how much pleasure I can handle. It's kind of, no, let's keep on going. Let's keep on going and start to expand. And so it takes them into, again, what is crucial to my work is coming back home to themselves and feeling what is there, reclaiming that which was um, overridden through they didn't have their voice, they had consent was not allowed in terms of being who they were naturally. And so it takes them back into themselves to be able to find out who are they, what is real and true for them in this moment.
Wow. Um, for some clients, that can be a root of the hypersexuality, having been molested as a child, and also, that's a trauma, of course. But if it's not being molested as a child, it's some other trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And so, when I work with a client, the first part is pulling the dirt off and all the trauma and all that. And then once we get through that work, then we get to the gold and start polishing the gold and developing that superhero part of themselves. But that trauma part was frustrating for me because I went the traditional route to get help, and we would just talk about it and just talk about it and talk about it. And so I had to go on my own and find tools like the emotional freedom technique, EFT, or tapping, and other modalities to help release some of those traumas. So, uh, what do you do with your clients that, like the example you just gave? How
Mm-hmm.
were you able to help that client?
Mm-hmm. And a big part of it is going into feel. So we look at mindset, look at the thoughts that start to come up. And you mentioned as well about looking at it's not just breaking the habit; it's about busting those beliefs. And I look at the word belief or believe, and in the middle is a great big LIE, a great big lie. So every belief is built on a lie.
Oh, I love that. That's good. Gotta
Mhm.
use that too. Lorna, you're giving me a lot of good stuff here.
And when it's this idea, so don't even trade one belief for another, is recognize the beliefs that are there, find out, dig down and find out what are the beliefs. So for her, it was really about allowing, and I always start with the body is wise. So let's use what the body's presenting. Is it presenting a physical pain? Is it presenting some emotional turmoil? Is it presenting, the thought that keeps looping around and around and around? And one of the things that I often do, and people often sometimes will think, well, what does that have to do? I say, hey, welcome to our session. Tell me what's happening. What's going on? It feels like you're sort of bringing into the session with you. And it might be, oh yeah, I just had this argument with somebody, or I'm still trying to process something, or I'm trying to figure out my finances. It's just kind of, okay, great. Anything else. And then we take the thing that is actually getting their attention more. That's where we start. And it might be that the bike fell off of their wheel fell off of their bike on their way and they had to walk. Okay, let's use that because that becomes a portal into what's really going on. And we just like a dandelion. I talk about um, a lot of people will like to with dandelions, they try to cut off the dandelion and um, you know do it that way. But what if we were to harvest the dandelion, the flowers, the leaves, and even go down and get the whole root and let all of it be there? So that's what we would do. I take them down into where is this leading us and letting them feel the emotion to know that they're held. It's okay to feel. Just go ahead and feel. I'm here with you. Feel as fully as you can. Use your breath to let you feel it. So that's one of the ways. It's sometimes to look at, again, that mindset, not in think positively, but here's the mindset, here's the play. Who are the characters that are at play? Because what's happening on the stage in this play that's happening in our mind, the mindset, it's a whole lot different than what's actually happening here. But it becomes the lens through which we see ourselves and interpret everything that we're seeing around us.
Is that the spiritual alchemy that you speak of?
No, it's connected to it for sure.
Okay.
And when I look at, so I shouldn't say no. Yes, and an expanded perspective of the alchemy is really looking at, we look at, and I use the Garden of Eden as an analogy for that, is here we are, in our wholeness and this, in our divinity, the human experience in what is perceived as duality, female, male, but all of a sudden this act of, taking the apple, and here's the serpent, and tempted Eve, and she offered it to Adam, and there became the fall of mankind and the shame with the fig leaves and all of that. And again, looking at the mirror is, what if we actually look at it, it's not that way, but that it was actually the serpent representing the kundalini, that sexual erotic energy. The
Mhm.
apple is actually an aphrodisiac. When you bite into a juicy apple, it's just like, oh, right? And so that Eve saying, "Hey, Adam, would you partake in this with me?" And and there's the whole piece. But there's where it was kind of, oh, they know that's what it is. It's kind of, yeah, we know our wholeness, we know our divinity. And so this looking at the feminine, and while we look at female and male as if they are separate, I say, good, that's a part of the story. So how do we now look at, and instead of looking at female, male, we look at, oh yeah, there's different bodies, that's okay. And there's feminine and a masculine. And we have in our culture looked at feminine is being repressed and masculine up. But again, the mirror, what if it was like this? Feminine being spirit, what's it like to have a human experience? I need form. Oh, there's the masculine. So it becomes this journey. So instead of having as if sex is something to be separating for us and we're supposed to try to find our partner, we're supposed to find our wholeness through, two shall become one. It's just, what if one was never two at the beginning? Just that's the experience that we had. So it's taking this sexual experience, all that we've come to know about sex, or well, we've perceived it is, it's shameful. We have to have somebody else. It's to look at what's the spiritual essence of that. And in my work as a pro dom over the years, and in my work as a bondage practitioner and a bondage trainer, it's about really helping people to come back home into knowing their oneness, feeling their power. For women, the empowerment piece is, and I empower men and women. But it's to really recognize that feminine power, sexuality, and leadership as representative of the feminine flow, that spiritual aspect of who we are. And the masculine, that masculine form, is to know that it is in service to the feminine. And does that mean that one is better than the other? Not at all. It's this dance together. And in my work as in these various realms, as a somatic sexologist, I weave it all together. It's really about recognizing that we're whole within, that there's the feminine, the masculine within us. And oftentimes when porn addiction happens, there's a part that is trying to find that other part within. But we've been taught to look outside. So it's just perpetual. I need to connect. It's out there. It's out there. No, it's come back home. It's all right here within.
Wow, Lorna, I could listen to you all day, but we're coming up towards the end here. But I'm going to ask you one last question. What you're talking about here at the end, that sounds like the erotic liberation. Is that what you're talking about? What's the erotic liberation?
Hmm. It's that sense of really being free in our knowing, in our experience, who we are. And as I say, that what we're looking at, the say women's empowerment, call it feminine empowerment, I see it as a spiritual awakening for all of us. because we come back into this, oh, we're all here together, not only in what's around us, what we see and perceive around us, but all right here, right here. And that oftentimes those addictions that happen, or the retraction and the anorexic aspect of things, is that part of feeling that disconnection from our wholeness. And I use the word healing in the sense of, it's not that we're broken, it's not that there's pieces missing. Healing is actually a recognition that we are whole right
Wow. Lorna, you have so much wisdom in you. I would love to have you back again sometime. Lorna, so there's people that are listening right now. They are as blown away as I am. What can they do to reach out to you if they want to partake of your services? How do they connect
now.
with
Mm. Thank you, Eric. And anybody who feels that impulse, whether a large or small impulse, to reach out, I welcome meeting with them. You can contact me on Facebook. I'm Lorna Gale there. I also have my page on the Trusted Bodywork site, so trustedbodywork.com, Lorna Gale, and then you can connect to me through there as well. But reach out. I'm happy to hop onto a call to really be able to find out what is that piece that's calling to you, and am I a person that can support you in that journey. And it's really important that in my work, it's don't follow me. I get to be a guide for people to find their way back home to themselves.
you? Jeez. I mean, like, you've just totally blown me away. Wow. You have so much wisdom. Well, Lorna, thank you for being here. And so please reach out to Lorna if you are so inspired. And Lorna, you have any last words of wisdom before we go?
There is a moment, the moment that you will know your wholeness and your freedom, and that moment is here now.
Well, thank you. And remember, you are designed for accomplishment, you are engineered for success, and you're endowed with the seeds of greatness.
Thanks for listening. If you're struggling with porn or sex addiction, reach out to Eric at powerfuleric.com.